Hey everybody, how are you? Hope you're all good. Hope you're all having a wonderful New Year's Eve so far. Just wanted to jump on to say thank you, I guess, for what's been another amazing year doing the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. It's, as I always say, my passion project, my baby, if you like, and it's the one constant in my life in terms of work, because as a freelancer, you know, you're jumping around, you're doing different jobs. You've got periods where it's really, really busy and you've got lots and lots going on. And you've got periods where it's probably not so busy and you start to scratch your head and wonder why exactly that is. But I thought I'd take the time out on this New Year's Eve just to put out a special thank you message, because without you guys, I don't know what I'd be doing, to be honest with you. I've told the story a million times, so I don't want to go over it again. But obviously, when you move into a totally different career, you need something, right? Something that underpins what you are doing, something that gives you that little bit of stability and that little bit of routine, I guess, in a freelance world. And the Chronicles of a Gooner has given me that. Every single platform that I've ever worked on, whether it be radio, TV, whatever, other podcasts, other YouTube channels, it's all because people have stumbled across the Chronicles of a Gooner and decided that they want to ask me to do something else. It's been the kind of bedrock of everything that I've done. And every year I sort of reflect and look back on it. And I spend a bit of time sort of looking back at the numbers, trying to figure out the growth. It's not all about numbers. It's about building a community. And I think there are much bigger channels out there and there are much bigger podcasts out there for sure. But are there podcasts with this type of community, with this kind of loyal listenership, viewership? I'm not so sure. And that's what I'm kind of really, really proud that we've built here. And, you know, it's thanks to you guys that I'm able to continue doing it. You know, earlier in the year, we launched a Patreon and that's gone really well, much better than I thought it would. In terms of the number of people that were willing to support. We can still do so much more on our side in terms of bringing you more content. And I promise you that's going to happen. It's been a really sort of weird year because there have been some real highs and there have been some lows on the personal side as well. And I've never wanted to kind of shy away from that. I've always wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on in my life, because I think it does come across in the content. And we moved house about a month and a half ago now. And since then, I've not had the permanent recording space that I had in my previous home, which has made life very, very difficult. It means that every time I'm about to record an episode, I have to walk around the house and basically tell my wife to sort of keep tabs on the kids, make sure that she doesn't do anything too noisy, i.e. get the Hoover out or something like that, because knowing my luck, she would get it out at the time that I'm recording. But I also then have to sort of bribe the kids with something to get them to stay quiet for 45 minutes to an hour as well. So it's been really, really challenging. I know visually it's not been great either. And so I want to thank you guys for bearing with me and sticking with me during that difficult period. Obviously, it's been, you know, something that's happened multiple times this year, because when I was away at the European Championships in the summer for the best part of a month, again, I had no permanent recording space. I was relying on some really bad hotel Wi-Fi. We went to pre-records only because I was worried that during live streams it would cut out and let me down. So we've had periods this year where I've asked a lot of you guys in terms of you sticking with me and bearing with me, even when things haven't been to the standard that they should be. And you have done that. So I appreciate that immensely. I've been teasing sort of that the man cave is nearly ready on the main pod recently, and we are almost there. I'm hoping that by the end of Friday, everything will be ready and I'll be able to move into it, set everything up, the proper camera, not this rubbish laptop camera, have the mic permanently set up, which should reduce some of the issues that we've had over the last few months with technical stuff and all that. And the visual will be 10 times, 20 times, 50 times better than it is currently. So again, I appreciate you guys really, really bearing with me. I did a podcast yesterday on Arsenal's 2024. And if you're more interested in that than listening to me ramble on about my 2024, then you can check it out. It's the last episode in the feed. You'll find it there. It is the last video on the YouTube channel as well, if you're a viewer. But I do want to talk a little bit about my year. I do want to reflect a little bit on my 2024, because as I keep saying, you guys have been such a major part of that. As I said, nobody would have ever hired me to do anything if I didn't have this podcast to show as a kind of portfolio of my work. And since then, things have spiraled, and I've had some amazing opportunities, and it's been a year of so much fun. It's been a year of hosting and co-hosting national radio shows, commentating on the Premier League, on the Champions League, on the EFL, on the CAF Champions League for both radio and television. That's kind of been the big development for me, I think, over the course of the last year, is that I've gone from being a radio commentator, which I love, by the way, and I think is definitely more difficult, by the way, than being a TV commentator. But it's been that transition, or I'm not going to say transition because I still do radio commentary, but it's been a year where I've been able to make that jump across, and I've got to do way more TV stuff, and that requires a slightly different skill set. It requires a bit of adaptation, and thankfully, with some guidance from some amazing people, colleagues, producers, bosses, etc., I feel like I'm in a place where I'm not at the level that I aspire to be. Obviously, there's still lots to come, and there's still much more work to be doing. Like, I'm chuffed to be commentating, for instance, on the EFL for Sky Sports Plus, but I want to be commentating on the Champions League on TV. I want to be doing the Premier League on TV. Done lots of Arsenal TV, which has been amazing. I'm sure you guys have seen the clips and watched the matches back on the website. I know a lot of people do enjoy doing that. It's been a really amazing ride, and I've got to guest as well on some incredible platforms, debating all the game's big stories with people who I might not always completely agree with, but obviously respect immensely. And 2024 gave me the opportunity to go over to Germany for, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the best part of a month to cover my first international tournament on the ground. And I tell you now, you know what? It was amazing, unbelievable experience. I'll remember it for the rest of my life, and I'll always be super grateful for the opportunity to do it. But it is challenging. It can be lonely. You're on the road all the time. You're on trains all the time. Your evenings, there's only so many nights you can go out and have a drink, and there's only so many nights where you've got company as well. So you end up a lot of the time just stuck in a hotel room, trying to think of things to do, watching stuff on TV and all the rest of it. And it can be a lot less glamorous than probably people think it is. But of course, for me, most importantly, we've continued to grow this podcast, which, as I mentioned, during 2024 has gone to a whole new level. And I'll explain a little bit more with regards to what I mean by that, because some people will look at it and say, and I've had this message maybe 3 or 4 times over the last couple of weeks, which is why I want to kind of address this point. I've had people say, Harry, there's a lot more adverts now on the pod when we listen to it on the audio platforms. And to be completely open, honest, and transparent with you guys, that it had to happen. So I keep talking about the fact that I'm a freelancer, and obviously that impacts my mentality and my attitude and outlook on work, right? When work comes, I kind of got to take it because I don't know when the next bit of work's going to come. Okay. Yes, you can be in there with certain radio stations and TV channels and podcasts and whatever, but you never know when they're going to pull the plug, because it is a freelance world. And I've had the plug pulled on me a good couple of times over the course of 2024. And it's why we're no longer doing certain shows that you guys would have been across, and maybe some even came over to hear from originally. So that has happened, and you have to adapt on the fly. And it kind of dawned on me about midway through 2024 that yes, the Chronicles of Aguna is my constant, and yes, the Chronicles of Aguna is the bedrock and the foundation of everything that I do. But I needed to make it more financially viable, in the sense of, if I'm going to give up loads of time doing it, and at times turn away work because I want to do this first. So like an example is Monday mornings after a big game, or the mornings after a big game. There have been times where I've had offers to do things and I've said no, because I want to get the Chronicles of Aguna podcast out as early as possible. So then from the business perspective, it has to make sense. And it's not that you're in it just for the money. It's not that you're trying to rob people. It's not that you're trying to squeeze every bit of juice out of it, and that's your first priority. No, but when you spend so much time on something, particularly when you're a freelancer and above everything, a family person who's got a family to look after and take care of, you need to make sure that it's doing what it should be doing, right? It's not taking any more, but you shouldn't be accepting less. You should be trying to get the podcast and the product into a place where it can earn what it deserves to earn, what this audience allows it to earn. And so I've had to make some changes. I went independent from a network that I was in because I was getting a rough deal, is the truth of it. When I spoke to other people and sort of just from knowing fellow podcasters and people who have very similar ventures, it became apparent to me that I was being robbed. Like, maybe that's too strong a term to use because I never questioned it and it wasn't like I was lied to about it. I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware of what we could do with the podcast. And I seeked some advice, spoke to some really great people, some people that are right at the kind of top of the podcast tree. And we decided to go independent for a bit, let an agency monetize it for us. That didn't go so well. And then we joined another network, a network that was giving me a much better deal. And that is, of course, the Sports Social Podcast Network. And so many of your favorite podcasts, I'm sure if you listen to multiple sport podcasts, will be on there. And that has just opened up so many doors. It's given us the opportunity to do brand deals. It's given us opportunities to monetize the audio in a way that I just didn't even think was possible. So because of that, I can now spend more time on this. Because of that, we can keep the Patreon price at the price that it is rather than pushing it up. Because of that, we can now, going into the new year when the terms are all laid out and it's looking really good, we can bring you more Patreon stuff and we don't have to put the Patreon fee up. And that is because of those adverts that some people have messaged me about. Now, there's a couple of adverts at the start of every pod when you listen to it on audio, and there's going to be a couple probably in the middle of every pod as well at some point. You can skip through them. Okay. But them being there is what keeps this podcast ticking. So I just wanted to make that point. Like, maybe some people don't care and maybe some people don't want to hear this, but I want to be as transparent as possible because I think we've always been that from the very beginning. And that's why I feel a really kind of strong connection with our listeners and with our viewers and with the sort of Chronicles of a Gooner community. So if you hear more ads, it's because they are essential to this podcast being as regular as it is. There's not a lot of podcasts that are daily. There's a fair few nowadays, but we were, I'm not going to say one of the first, but we went daily really early on in the journey. And that was because I felt that was the best way to grow it, to get better at it, to develop it, etc., etc. If you're doing pods 5-6 times a week rather than once a week, then you're going to learn quicker and you're going to improve the product that you're putting out there a lot quicker. So that was kind of the thinking behind that. And now we're at the point that we're at. It's important that the podcast, for me, to allow me to continue spending this time on it and turning down other things to make sure that this is out in a timely fashion. It's important that it is viable for me. And I'm delighted to say that by the end of 2024, it seems like we got it to a place where it is. And there's been a lot going on behind the scenes. There's been a lot going on in the background. There's been a lot of traveling. There's been a lot of me being at games, which has meant that I can't always stream as soon after a full-time whistle as I would like. But I want to thank you all for sticking with me and being with me on this amazing journey. And I promise you, 2025 is going to be bigger, better. We've got an even better recording space than what we had previously. I need to start making some of that money back in other ways, that's for sure. But anyway, we've got a much better recording space. We've got so much to be excited about going into the new year. And as I keep saying, none of it would be possible without you guys. None of it. If you'd have told me 5 years ago that this would be my profession, I would have laughed at you because I didn't think it was possible. But it is possible and has been possible because of you guys. I'd have told you, that you're talking nonsense. It's a load of rubbish. And I do look back at the end of every year and look at what I've got to do and all the amazing opportunities I've had. I just did it this morning. I went through my sort of camera roll on my phone and I was finding pictures. I was like, bloody hell, remember that, remember this, remember that. Been to so many grounds, been to so many amazing matches and big occasions. And it's just been unbelievable again. And, when people ask me what my kind of aspiration is and stuff, I will often say, I just want to give it my absolute all until I have to get a proper job, and let's see where it takes me. On a personal level, as I mentioned, there have been loads of ups, loads of highs. I'm really, really lucky to have an amazing family around me, a really supportive wife, two amazing kids, and obviously my extended family and friends are always there for me as well. I'm surrounded by the best people, and that's all you can ask for. 2024 has been legendary in a lot of ways, but it's also been difficult and stressful in others. We've lost some good people along the way, which has been difficult on a personal level. But roll on 2025 is what I say. And so whether you're an avid listener or viewer, someone that checks in from time to time, someone that puts positive comments in the chat, or someone that likes to slag me off, is all appreciated. It really, really is, because it means that you're at least taking the time to listen to what I have to say. I wish you all happy and healthy above everything else new year. Have a good one tonight. Spend it with your friends, spend it with your families, whatever it is that you're going to be doing. Enjoy it, lap it up. We draw a line under 2024 and we go bigger and better in 2025. And my 2025 starts with, listen to this, Doncaster Rovers versus Fleetwood Town on Sky Sports Plus. I'm buzzing for that. But then, of course, we'll be covering the Brentford Arsenal game as well. And we'll bring you some content around that ASAP as well. So there's loads and loads coming your way. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. Wishing you all the best. Happy and healthy 2025. And thank you again for everything, because without this pod, without you guys, I would still be sitting in my old job, counting down the hours until every day ended and being miserable. And I never realized how miserable I was until I got out of it, until I started to do something that got me going, because I felt like the fire was gone. Like my motivation was at zero. Like, yeah, I was doing what I needed to do, and I was getting my paycheck to support my family and doing whatever I needed to kind of get through each day, each period, and whatever. But there was no fire in my belly. And now I wake up every day determined to do better, to do more, to move forward, to push forward. And that is because this podcast has opened the door for me to go on and do amazing other things while staying a real key part of my routine. And I'm super, super grateful. I'm super, super thankful to every single one of you. And love to every single one of you. Thanks again for taking the time. Have a great new year, and I'll speak to you all on the other side. Until then, take care of yourselves. Have a great one. Goodbye.